A doctor, formerly a licensed surgeon, is now accused of removing the wrong organ from a patient, killing him on the operating table.
If you make a mistake this bad and you're still arrogant, it's a different kind of arrogance at that point.
And what police and a lawsuit claimed happened after that surgery is where this story gets even more shocking. We're on the case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Real quick, guys, I want to tell you about this app. You're going to love it. It's called Upside. It gets you cash back on everyday purchases like gas, groceries, and takeout. All you do is download Upside for free, claim an offer at one of their 100,000 plus locations, then pay like you typically would with your card. After that, verify the purchase and you get money back. I use it when I pump gas, or maybe I'm doing takeout one night. I search for offers on Upside. Then after I spend, money goes into my app and I just transfer it straight to my bank. Upside's frequent users earn an average of $254 back a year. So to start getting cash back, click the link in the description or scan the QR code and use promo code OTC to get an extra 25 cents bonus on every gallon on your first tank of gas.
Take your seatbelt off. Get out. Get out. Yes, I'm getting out. Which car? I got his right on. Huh? There's people in the vehicle. I'm giving him a ride. There's people in the vehicle. I'm giving him a ride. Okay. We'll do that in a minute. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Other people in there.
Yes. Another one in there. You pull him back. Pull him back. Pull him back.
They're going on the other side.
He had a warrant. He needed to go to jail. So.
Looks like it. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Well, imagine you call a Lyft, you're on vacation in Florida, and then cops swarm the car. They have their guns out, and you find out your driver is being arrested, and it is in a disturbing case, a manslaughter case, and he's a surgeon. Now, in this situation, that driver, his name was Thomas Shaknovsky, and police had an active warrant out for his arrest because they allege he removed the wrong organ from a patient. And according to police, he removed the liver of a 70-year-old man, and he was supposed to take out his spleen. And this allegedly killed that man right on the operating table. But here's the thing, that surgery happened in 2024. The arrest happened just a couple of weeks ago. So for nearly 2 years, this doctor turned rideshare driver, he's been apparently out there. Now, the hospital, they may be in trouble as well because the widow of the victim, a 70-year-old man named William Bryan, is now suing, and her attorney is claiming the hospital tried to cover this up. Now, we did talk to the attorney. You'll hear from him in just a bit, and we also have a statement from the hospital, reportedly what they are saying to some very shocking allegations. We'll get into all of that, but first, let's talk about what went down on April 13th, 2026, because this is the day that police moved in, and this became a criminal investigation.
Take your seatbelt off. Get out. Get out. Yes, I'm getting out. Which car? I got his right on. Huh? There's people in the vehicle. I'm giving him a ride. There's people in the vehicle. I'm giving him a ride. Okay. We'll do that in a minute. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Other people in there.
Yes. Another one in there. You pull him back. Pull him back. Pull him back.
They're going on the other side.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You got anything in your pocket? Poke me, stick, cut me?
No, sir.
Nothing?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
You good on this side? Nothing makes it in.
Thomas, where's your ID at? Who's this car?
Pruitt.
Pruitt? I'll take it. Bring it back here.
Where?
Yes.
Where's your car?
Back here. Don't forget the double lock handcuff.
Yeah.
Here you go, brother.
Come on. Walk back here.
This is an Uber ride. Okay, just come out, hang over here with me.
Having a heart attack, you said?
No, I said we're in an Uber.
Oh, we're in an Uber. Oh.
They just scared the crap out of us.
No, I can understand that.
Oh, I thought you were pulling the guy next to us over, and then you.
Yeah.
Oh, we're on vacation.
Where are you guys trying to go?
I don't.
We don't know. Well, wherever the GPS
I got to
is
get my
taking-
phone and take it.
Okay.
Okay. Just give us a second here. Do either of y'all feel like you need to get checked out by a doctor or anything? Back on up, brother. Yeah, just back on up for me right now, please. Are you kidding me? Well, he was driving an Uber. Who the bunk?
This will be, I think it's the guy.
It's the one who took the liver out or whatever, like last year. Yeah, I know who it is. But I'm just surprised he was driving an Uber.
Are y'all just getting into town today?
Yeah, we got in town
welcome.
last night. Stayed at a welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Oh my god.
I don't know if she explained it, but he had a warrant. He needed to go to jail, so.
Looks like it, yeah. Oh my goodness. How can he let
Somebody
somebody?
just had a gun pointed at me because he was in front of me.
Yeah, I
so
don't know
just
how
scared
he.
the out of me.
I thought they do
I thought they did
background
background.
checks.
All right, we're not using Lyft again.
I know.
From now on, we're using Uber.
We had good
Not
reviews.
The victim in this case, 70-year-old Bill Bryan, he was from Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and he was just on vacation on the Florida Panhandle with his wife, Beverly, in 2024. It was on August 18th of that year that he went to the emergency room because he just wasn't feeling well. This was at Ascension Sacred Heart Emerald Coast. He had some abdominal pain. Now, the on-call surgeon was Dr. Thomas Shaknovsky. And according to the lawsuit that was filed by Beverly Bryan, Shaknovsky was the one who recommended surgery. He wanted to remove her husband's spleen. The Bryans, though, according to this lawsuit, they were hesitant. They wanted to be sent to another hospital. They said no to surgery. They wanted to go home to Alabama. Remember, they were just on vacation. But according to the lawsuit, Shaknovsky, he kept pushing. And at one point, he allegedly actually physically pressed down on William's abdomen and said, quote, "Well, that is why you need to change your mind about having surgery." Eventually, they say he relented. And the surgery was scheduled for a couple days later, August 21st, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is where this story gets incredibly sad and disturbing. According to the Florida Department of Health's emergency suspension order, which we have, operating room staff had concerns going into the procedure. They're officially called splenectomies, and they're very complicated. And according to the report, there was a, quote, skeletal crew working that night. The lawsuit says that the staff went to their charge nurse and allegedly expressed apprehension about the doctor. Quote, they did not have confidence in defendant Shaknovsky, were uncomfortable with having this procedure at ASHEC since they were not regularly performed there, and that they felt defendant Shaknovsky was not skilled enough to handle such procedure. The chief medical officer, Dr. Bakani, heard these complaints allegedly before the surgery, but according to the lawsuit, he did nothing to stop it. Shaknovsky apparently showed up late, over an hour, which also is just a concerning sign if that's true. The patient was then brought into the OR at 5:20 p.m. and the procedure started as reportedly minimally invasive. But Shaknovsky switched to open surgery, and this is allegedly where things fell apart. Now, according to the arrest affidavit, the Department of Health order, witnesses in the operating room gave very different accounts of what Shaknovsky ended up writing in his operative report. So the surgeon's report claims that he identified the spleen, he dissected it, and then a splenic artery aneurysm ruptured, causing massive bleeding. He then claims that he removed the spleen, but that was in a last-ditch effort to save Bill Bryan's life. But the witnesses, they say something else entirely happened. They say when the abdomen was opened, a distended colon burst out, so it visibly disrupted. And they say Shaknovsky, he grabbed a vessel and said, quote, "That's scary," then fired a stapling device. Immediately after, the patient began to hemorrhage severely and went into cardiac arrest. Then, according to the Department of Health order, Shaknovsky fired the stapling device, quote, "blindly into the abdomen." And when he pulled the organ out, and this is twisted, the organ wasn't a spleen. One staff member reportedly felt sick to their stomach because of what they saw on the table was clearly a liver. Now listen, I'm not a doctor, but from covering this story, what we have learned is that a liver and a spleen look very different because the organ that was on the table weighed more than 2,100 grams. And when you're talking about a spleen, a normal one is between 70 and 200 grams. William Bill Bryan was pronounced dead that night, just before 7 o'clock. So let's get into what happened next. And this is where this story goes from a medical nightmare to something else entirely. According to the civil lawsuit, after Mr. Bryan died, the hospital allegedly went into damage control mode. So again, we do have a statement. We'll talk about what the hospital has said here in just a moment, but this is what the lawsuit is alleging: that the CEO of Ascension Sacred Heart Emerald Coast, the chief medical officer, that Dr. Bakani, and the immediate past president of the medical staff, who also happened to be Shaknovsky's business partner, they all gathered with the operating room staff. They allegedly met, they allegedly talked, and then according to the lawsuit, and this is the side of the story from the patient, they came up with a story. The official cause of death, they said a splenic artery aneurysm, something that supposedly ruptured during the surgery, but there was just one problem according to the lawsuit: that wasn't true. According to the Department of Health order, Shaknovsky told staff to label the removed organ as a spleen. The person labeling it knew it wasn't a spleen, they say, but they allegedly did what they were told. Shaknovsky then went to the hospital chapel, and this is sick if this is true. He allegedly met with Beverly Bryan, and according to the lawsuit, he told her to her face that her husband died from a splenic aneurysm. And then allegedly a nurse was in the room and no one mentioned the liver. Then that same night, a house supervisor, defendant Kathleen Montag, defendant in the lawsuit, and according to that suit, she allegedly chased Beverly Bryan, a widow, into the parking lot. She wanted Mrs. Bryan to sign a form rejecting an autopsy. Just think about that. Hours after her husband dies in a shocking way, when they were just on vacation on the Panhandle, you have allegedly this nurse following her to her car with paperwork, and allegedly Mrs. Bryan signed it. Lawsuit alleges that the forms filled out for the medical examiner were intentionally falsified. The cause of death was misrepresented, they say. So who finally told the truth? Reportedly, it was a pathologist. So when the organ arrived at the lab, they ran tests. There was allegedly no spleen tissue, just liver, and then the medical examiner got involved. On September 17th, 2024, the medical examiner for Florida's District 1 certified the death certificate, quote, manner of death, homicide, and the causes of death: exsanguination, and again, not a doctor, so I may not be doing well with that pronunciation, but the surgical removal of the liver. And that untouched spleen, it was still in William Bryan's body. So allegedly, there was no aneurysm, no rupture. And now, here's the part that really makes you wonder, how was this doctor even able to practice in the first place? Because this was not Shaknovsky's first wrong organ surgery. According to the Florida Department of Health emergency suspension order back in May of 2023, more than a year before Mr. Bryan died, Shaknovsky performed a different surgery. It was supposed to be what's called adrenalectomy, which is the removal of the adrenal gland, which is apparently near your kidney. And instead, he allegedly removed a portion of the patient's pancreas. And when he was confronted with this, Shaknovsky reportedly claimed that the adrenal gland, quote, migrated to a different part of the body. Now, that patient survived, but suffered long-term permanent harm, allegedly. So here is a surgeon, 2 wrong organ surgeries, 1 patient permanently harmed, 1 patient dead. And according to the lawsuit, Ascension Sacred Heart knew about at least some of this. The lawsuit alleges the hospital had reported 3 surgical errors involving this surgeon to the state between May 2023 and August 2024, and all 3 involved Shaknovsky. But he kept his privileges, it seems. He kept operating. The lawsuit draws a direct line to another case. Years earlier, at another Ascension hospital in Jacksonville, St. Vincent's, there was a surgeon named Dr. R. David Heekin, and he was allegedly allowed to keep operating despite what a judge later called a, quote, concerning and disturbing pattern of deviations from the standard of care. Knee replacements put in backwards, screws placed into a patient's sciatic nerve, and a patient who died on the table. Hundreds of lawsuits, and a judge ultimately found that the hospital's failure to stop him was so reckless it justified punitive damages. But that was the same hospital system. Ascension, same problems, allegedly, and the same pattern. But this time it was a different surgeon, which brings us back to April 13th, 2026. And that is when a Walton County grand jury indicted Dr. Thomas Shaknovsky for second-degree manslaughter. And that is when police went looking for him. So now The criminal case is one thing, but as we mentioned, you have Beverly Bryan. She is also fighting this civil battle. She has sued Shaknovsky, his practice, the hospital, and several nurses. And her attorney, Joe Zarzar, has some very pointed things to say about what he says happened after that surgery. Before we get to our interview with him, I do want to read a statement that has been released by Sacred Heart Emerald Coast. Quote, Dr. Shaknovsky was never a Sacred Heart Emerald Coast employee and has not practiced at any of our facilities since August 2024. We remain focused on upholding the standards our patients and community expect of us. Now, as far as Dr. Shaknovsky goes, it is not clear whether he has retained an attorney. Joining us now is the attorney for Beverly Bryan, Joe Zarzar. Thank you, sir, for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime. I know you have been, part of this story for roughly 2 years at this point. What did you see when you saw that body camera video? What was it like for you to see the surgeon being taken into custody?
Well, the family was relieved. I was relieved in a sense for the family's sake because obviously I'm pursuing the civil case, but we felt like from the beginning of this, a year and a half ago, that this was a criminal matter that needed to have the criminal system involved. So I was glad that that had happened.
And how does the fact that there's this criminal side of it impact what you're pursuing on the civil side?
They're two separate tracks. It doesn't affect it at all. Actually, the cases don't overlap. There's two separate tracks in our system. There's a civil track and a criminal track. And the civil track, they don't intersect. So that case will go regardless of what happens in this case. This case will move forward regardless of what happens in that case.
And just going through the civil lawsuits, some of the stories that have been out there and going back to that terrible night that Mr. Bryan ends up losing his life. Can you just walk us through what you know about the part when it comes to the doctor going up to Beverly in a chapel and explaining to her what happened, and then how we get to the point where the actual cause of death was discovered? Because it doesn't seem like it's a direct path that someone might expect where you're able to find out how your loved one passed away.
Yeah, there was nothing direct about it. The doctor removed Mr. Bryan's liver, but in doing so, he had to transect the inferior vena cava because that's the main vessel that is attached to the liver. And so when you remove somebody's liver, it's necessary for you to cut the inferior vena cava. And when you cut that vessel, you bleed out pretty quickly. And without immediate control, there's not really much anybody can do for you. So you die. The liver was removed from Mr. Bryan after he transected the inferior vena cava, and the organ was put on a table in the OR. And the doctor maintained, even though all the nurses and the techs in the room were suggesting that that was the liver, the doctor maintained that it was not the liver, it was the spleen. So he started dictating his op report. And in his op report, he does not mention the liver. He only mentions the spleen. And he went to the pathology lab before his op note was finished, just to look and measure, he said, the spleen. He went and studied the liver for several minutes, up to 10 minutes, taking measurements perhaps. And then he went back and finished his operative report, and again doubled down on the fact that this was not the liver, even though the organ was had a spot where the gallbladder was attached and removed in a prior surgery, and which is the telltale sign if you don't recognize a liver from it being 3 times or 4 times the size of a spleen, a different color, a different side of the body, a different shape, a different texture. If you don't recognize all those things as a general surgeon, you would certainly recognize the fact that it has a connection point for the gallbladder that had been removed. So after studying the specimen in the lab, he comes back and he finishes his operative report saying that it's the spleen. Then he goes to the chapel and tells the family that he died, Mr. Bryan died when he was doing a splenectomy, and the splenic artery ruptured, and as a last resort, he was trying to take out his spleen, and the spleen was diseased, and it was 4 to 5 times the size of a normal spleen, and it was all deformed, and basically told the family that unfortunately he just died from a complication of a splenectomy.
And the procedure, if the procedure had been done correctly, and I'm not a doctor, and this is I know that you've worked cases like this before. What were they headed into this surgery with the idea of Mr. Bryan passing away even being a possibility? Was this
No.
like a high risk surgery?
This was an elective procedure. So there was nothing critical going on with Mr. Bryan. Dr. Shaknovsky made it sound as if there was, but the medical records reflect a different, more stable situation. Splenectomies happen most of the time from trauma, car wrecks. People have splenectomies because they rupture their spleen or they injure their spleen in a trauma, because it happens to sit where the seatbelt sometimes comes into play. And so many times the splenectomy is done by trauma centers, either with car wrecks, gunshots, right? And so they're rarely dealt with in an elective procedure. But this was a situation where we feel this doctor was just trying to drum up surgeries. And he had a financial motive, in our opinion. And that's why he made it sound as if Mr. Bryan couldn't leave the hospital without having this done.
I know you've worked and there are many malpractice cases out there that do not end up in criminal charges. I'm sure you've worked plenty of malpractice cases in your career, but what stands out to you? And you had a long deposition, I understand, with him in November. I mean, just what stands out to you about Dr. Shaknovsky and the way he has allegedly gone about this, leading up to the surgery, after the surgery, and so on, compared to a lot of other doctors who may be in situations where a mistake was made on an operating table? What is different about him?
Arrogance on a different level. Now, and I'm not being critical, but a lot of people are arrogant if they're good at what they do, okay? But if you make a mistake this bad and you're still arrogant, it's a different kind of arrogance at that point. It's psychopathic type level. There's nothing normal about the kind of arrogance a guy like this would have at this point. He still thinks he was a hero. This doctor still believes he was a hero in this surgery, and he did the best he could do, and he was just trying to save Mr. Bryan's life, even though he introduced all of the critical aspects of this to Mr. Bryan. He still believes that. So if one thing stands out, it's I'm never going to work a case this egregious again, probably, and hopefully. And number two, the level of arrogance this guy has is psychologically significant, in my opinion.
And from the quotes I've seen from that deposition in November, he said something along the lines of like he couldn't tell the difference because he was so upset. And it just seems like when I think of a surgeon, and I haven't had a lot of major surgeries, but like the image in your mind that this is a person who is cool under pressure, fighter pilot caliber, precision. And yet for him, it seems like in this deposition, he was very emotional. Like, how has that played into kind of the story he's telling?
Well, it's interesting. We didn't know about the pathology visit in the time of his deposition because they were hiding that from us. But had I known that he spent 10 minutes with the organ after everything had calmed down, after all the pressure was off, after Mr. Bryan had been dead for almost an hour, he then, by himself, went to the pathology lab, sat down with the organ, and had 10 minutes to study it. Okay? The deposition I took in November, we didn't know that then. And had I known that, I would have, of course, he would have lied in another way. That's a lie. And so he would have made up some other stuff at that point, right? I'm sure. But in any event, to address your question, how is it that I handled the fact that he said he was confused and there was so much pressure in the OR and he didn't recognize the organ? Well, he actually, that's a lie, I would contend. And further think that's a lie because he didn't mention the fact that he went to the pathology lab after everything had calmed down and then studied the organ for up to 10 minutes. So it's just lie on top of lie on top of lie. This is what these kind of people do, though.
Yeah, and I guess what happens now, and I know, again, on the civil side of it, with how long this has been going on, like what's the next step and where are you at this point?
We're going to be asking the court for punitive damages. We're going to bring in his group because we think his colleagues, Dr. Ruby and Dr. Haney, knew more about how incompetent this guy was and allowed him to operate on the general public, despite the fact that we feel they both had obligations to protect the citizens from this man and the patients from this man. So we're going to explore Genesis Care and their responsibility for this. His partners, we feel, shared in responsibility to some extent. I say partners, they're colleagues of his, the two surgeons that worked alongside him. Interestingly, they asked one of his partners, the older one, after the liver stuff came out about Mr. Bryan, they said the Agency for Healthcare Administration, which is a government agency in Florida that oversees the hospitals, they met with one of the colleagues, and they said to him, what is your reaction to one of your colleagues taking out a liver instead of a spleen and killing a gentleman? Of course, the normal reaction would be, we're astounded, we're sorry for the family, I can't stand this happened, I'm sorry it ever happened with any organization I'm related to. He certainly doesn't need to be practicing medicine with me or anybody else anymore. No, that's not the reaction he had. The reaction he had was, y'all the media, y'all the Agency for Healthcare Administration, and this lawyer who I call a terrorist potentially, and he used my name, is coming after us, and all it's doing is running off good physicians like Dr. Shaknovsky, and it's creating more work for me and my other colleague here, because Dr. Shaknovsky, the good, considerate gentleman he is, can't practice medicine anymore. So for reasons that are I'm not yet discovered, I'm going to, when I take his deposition, Dr. Ruby believes that the result of this is only more work for him because this butcher of a surgeon can't take call for him anymore, which I find unbelievable.
And also, like, I'm, again, not being a doctor, but the liver and the spleen, they seem to be relatively far apart. And from the outside, it seems like how common is it that someone would mistake an organ like this?
The general surgeons I speak to, except for Dr. Haney, his partner, and Dr. Ruby, all believe that the only way a general surgeon that's board certified in this specialty can make this mistake is if they're mentally deranged or they have some organic brain disorder, early dementia, or their own drugs. That's what most general surgeons tell me.
And have you found out, or what have you found out about his background where he was actually able to become certified to be in a position where he could allegedly push a family per procedure and then for it to go as badly as it did? I mean, how does somebody, I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of people watching this, is how does this guy eventually get in a position where he's able to be a surgeon like this?
I don't know. I mean, he's an osteopathic physician. I'm not saying anything about that, but he then did a fellowship according to the records he's provided us and what we have. And he is a board certified general surgeon, osteopathic doctor. And up until this point, we haven't been able to discover a lot other than the adrenal gland procedure where it happened in 2023, where he took out a person's pancreas instead of their adrenal gland. He worked in Alabama for a period of time. He claims it was a stellar employment. We hear otherwise. And then he moved to this hospital in Destin. And so we have about 4 years worth of problems. None of them as bad as Mr. Bryan, of course. But leading up to Mr. Bryan is that wrong site surgery where he took out part of a pancreas instead of an adrenal gland. And those are very different organs.
Yeah. And then just lastly, just how is this family doing? And I know it's difficult question to probably put into words. You lose a loved one this way, but then also there's the national attention with it, and then you learn all the little pieces of information that's being alleged in the lawsuit. Just how is Beverly and the rest of the family handling everything that surrounded this?
Miss Bryan is relieved. The last time I talked to her was Friday, and she was relieved that finally the criminal case is coming to a head, right? And she was so worried that he was going to be able to get away with this, because the civil system really isn't set up to put these people out of business. Really, I hate to say that. I hate to admit that we have limitations, but insurance companies come to the rescue of these doctors, right? And civil cases can make it more challenging to get insurance, right? It can really cost the insurance companies a lot. But as far as putting them out of business, it's not good. It's not good at that. But the criminal system does a better job at that. So she's relieved in the sense that now this guy hopefully will not be able to practice medicine, at least in a major country, hopefully, forever. So that's what she feels more than anything else right now.
All right, Joe Zarzer, attorney. Thank you, sir, for taking the time to be with us on Law&Crime. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. We're also now streaming on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.